Hi, everybody. Dan Illman, Mike Beer, the DRF race of the day for Saturday, April the 8th, a very important Kentucky Derby prep. It's race number 9 at Keeneland, the Grade 1, $1 million Bluegrass at 1 1/8 miles. Let's take a look at this field. Please scan or click the QR code for race of the day access on mobile with free formulator past performances. Your morning line favorite draws inside. The number 1, Tapit Trice, the winner of the Tampa Bay Derby. Fans of Tapit Trice are hoping he breaks better than usual, because if he is off slow in this big field and down on the rail, it could be disastrous.
Yeah, I mean, at least he's got a good post on the inside, Dan. I mean, you're right. He's going to have to, try to overcome those gate issues, which have sort of, he doesn't break horribly, but he's not sharp from the gate in his races. Being drawn down towards the inside, though, even if he's off, maybe another half step slowly here, he's going to get to save a lot of ground.
Curious as to your thoughts on the pace. Our friends at Timeform US believe this is going to be a fast pace. Major Blue, stretching back out for Mr. Lucas, has sprint speed. Verifying is more of a tactically inclined colt. He can get close to the pace. The 2 Clear the Air is sort of a tactical sort as well. Do you really think this pace is going to be blazing fast?
I didn't look at it that way when I went through it. I feel like, just looking at the pace projector, seeing the 2 and the 3, sort of right up close. I feel like if they're going to be right up close, this pace probably isn't going to be very fast, because I don't view either one of them as, horses who want to be, right up there part of the pace.
You see, Tapit Trice is expected to be last early. He's going to be hoping for some pace if he's in that position, as well as the horse with the LP, late pace flag. That's the 7 Sun Thunder, who has the highest late figure in the race from a pace perspective. Let's kick things off with Tapit Trice and his victory in the Grade 3 Tampa Bay Derby for Todd Pletcher. This was a race where he didn't break great, and he was sort of being scrubbed on the backstretch. Maybe didn't love being in behind horses. Once he gets into the clear, Mike, though, he uncorks that big stride. He's just better than these horses, and distance is not a problem.
Yeah, it didn't seem like the strongest field in the world for the Tampa Bay Derby this year, and this is the best part of the race as far as Tapit Trice is concerned. I don't think he had any real trouble at any point in the race, Dan, but he was wide around the final turn. As you've already mentioned, he was under a pretty hard ride there. Really came with some nice momentum, though. The final furlong closed it down pretty easily. Another good performance from him. I feel like he's run well in all 4 starts so far. The question is he going to finally break through and run a fast race? Because that's the one thing he's missing. There are no fast races on his card.
And I think he's got to get to the outside. We've seen in some of his starts, the jocks have really tried to make it a point to get him outside where he can get into the clear. And that might be difficult, breaking from the inside post, especially if he isn't away the cleanest. The number 2 Clear the Air is also cross-centered in the Wood Memorial. It appears trainer Will Walden will run here. They tried the Gotham last time out, Mike. It was a muddy track. If you want to give him a mulligan for that race, fine. But as of right now, his only win has come sprinting on synthetic.
Yeah, it's another horse who's a little bit slow, I guess you would say, on the way into this. That's may not be the proper way to look at him, though, Dan. I mean, obviously, he has something to prove here. Very impressive break in his maiden sprinting. He's 0 for 2 since they stretched him out. Terrible trip, 2 starts back at Turf. I personally think he was best in that race, and if he could have gotten clear, I think he would have won that day. He got a terrible trip last time in the Gotham, too. They tried to rate him early. He got shuffled back on the backstretch. He didn't go wide on the turn. I'll give his rider some credit for that. But he just got in tight and steadied in the upper stretch of that race. And by the time he was free again, it was way too late. But he made up a little ground there. I think this horse is in deceptively good form. He has excuses for each of his last 2 starts. He's a huge price in here. It's a really tough spot for him, but I'll be using this horse for sure.
Rider switch to Ricardo Santana Jr., who might get this one a little bit closer to the pace. The number 3 is Verifying. He's a beautifully bred son of Justify. He's a half-brother to Midnight Bizu, a very talented mare. And this horse did some good things as a 2-year-old. Impressive debut winner on Travers Day at Saratoga, then placed in the Grade 1 Champagne. In his 2 starts this year, I thought he did some good things. First off the bench at Oaklawn, going 2 turns in a first-level allowance. And then last time out in the Rebel, he caught a sloppy track. He was in between horses. I think he can build off that performance.
I do too, Dan. I feel like he's a horse, and I liked him as a 2-year-old anyway. I mean, his Breeders' Cup wasn't anything special there, but it was very early on for him. But I still thought he showed potential as a 2-year-old. I think he's improved a lot in his first 2 starts so far this year. Really impressive winning that allowance race off the layoff, and it was in pretty fast time too. Caught another sloppy track in the Rebel last time. I didn't think he got a great trip in that race by any stretch of the imagination. I feel like this is a horse who could easily take a step forward here. I would like it to be a fast track for him, though. He's run, I guess you could say, okay on the 2 wet tracks in his career. I think he's better on fast dirt.
A 3-1 on the morning line for Brad Cox, the third place finisher. The horse that finished directly ahead of him last time out in the Rebel, Reincarnate, came back to run third again in the Arkansas Derby with an 86 buyer. The 4 Classic Car Wash has really done very little wrong for trainer Mark Casse. We saw him finish second to Tapit Trice last time out in the Tampa Bay Derby, coming off the heels of a third place effort in the Sam F. Davis. He's a horse that, while I think he's a little bit more tactical than he's shown in his last 2 races, has seemed to embrace this late running style, and maybe he'll get the right setup.
Yeah, they've liked what he's done, I guess, from off the pace since they, got him stretched out on dirt. So maybe they'll keep going that way. Then I'm sort of steadily improving. I mean, I can't say that I have a real knock on him. I thought he ran fine in the Sam F. Davis. Didn't really finish that strongly in there, but managed to get up for third. He ran well again last time, but to me, it's hard to go back and watch that race and want him over Tapit Trice this time. I thought he got a good trip. He made the first move to get the jump on Tapit Trice last time, and he wasn't good enough.
Despite losses 2 and 3 starts back, trainer Ken McPeek never lost the faith in the 5 Hayes Strike, a horse that was multiple graded stakes place as a 2-year-old. Before this race, the private terms at Laurel, he told me if this horse wins, he's going to the Bluegrass, and Hayes Strike did not disappoint, getting a little bit of class relief in the private terms, swinging to the outside, running them down late. I'm not worried about distance. Now he's back up in class.
Yeah, good performance here. I mean, it's, in some ways it just kind of felt like the right field to run him. And even though he was somehow 8-1 in this race, it didn't seem like he was going to be that big a price, but he was. And he gets the job done, relatively easily. Did another step in the right direction. Now he's back in with some better horses with something to prove.
The number 6 is Scooby Quando, who's going to be trying dirt for the first time for trainer Ben Colebrook. He's a son of Uncle Mo, a debut winner sprinting, has run just fine in his 2 starts, going 2 turns over the synthetic surface at Turfway, including a runner-up effort in the Battaglia last time out.
Yeah, he's only won, he won his debut sprinted, and he's 0 for 2 since they stretched him out. But he's another one where it's probably worth at least going back and watching his 2 races since they stretched him out in distance, particularly the Battaglia last time. I mean, this horse just got in all kinds of trouble around the final turn of that race. It was a closer's race, and he was off of it, but he just got totally blocked around the final turn, and everybody got the jump on him towards the outside. He got clear very late in there. I thought he ran on pretty well to be second. He was also very unlucky that day. The question now is he a dirt horse?
McPeak also has the 7 Sun Thunder, who I think is a sleeper in this race, if you believe the pace is going to be fast. Now, he worked out a very good closer's trip 2 starts back in the Risen Star, a race in which he got some pace. He was able to save some ground at a key point in that race, and he rallied to be up for second. He got no pace last time out in the Louisiana Derby, a race that was wired by Kings Barnes, and he kind of was in behind horses for a little bit.
Yeah, he rates the benefit of the doubt for the last one. That race just didn't set up well for him at all. He did run well 2 starts back, though. I mean, you've already mentioned it, Dan. He got a great trip in that race. Everything worked perfectly for him. He had a real shot to win it, and he just wasn't good enough. But the horse that beat him, as it turns out, the horse is pretty good. Is one of the main contenders for the Derby right now. I mean, this horse could easily rebound in here.
One of the keys to this race, Mike, is the Chad Brown trained number 8, Blazing Sevens, the winner of last year's Grade 1 Champagne, 4th in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. He seemed cold on the board for his seasonal debut, the Grade 2 Fountain of Youth. I know he was in against Champion Forte, but he was a dull, almost 6-1 in that race, and he sort of ran to the lack of backing. He was bounced around at the start, then just didn't fire. Forte came back to win the Florida Derby with a 95 buyer. Chad's keeping the faith, and that might say something.
It might. It'll be interesting to see what he does here. I mean, obviously, I think you just have to suspect he's going to run a lot better here in the Bluegrass. I don't know what his excuse was last time, but that was pretty disappointing off the layoff. We'll see if he can rebound, Dan. I guess just because he was so bad last time, maybe you don't want to judge him off of that race. And so that means you go back to what he did as a 2-year-old and you sort of judge him off that. And he was a Grade 1 winner as a 2-year-old. Personally, I wasn't a big fan of his last year. I'm not sure how good this horse actually is. And it doesn't seem like he's going to be a big enough price in this race for me to want to bet him back.
He is going to get blinkers for the first time, but note that that big win in the Champagne over Verifying came on a wet racetrack. The number 9 is Major Blue. Mr. Lucas looking for a shot at the Derby. This horse won his maiden going 2 turns with the short stretch of the mile run at Oaklawn, and then he successfully cut all the way back to 5.5 in this race, a 2-life allowance at Oaklawn only 12 days later, and he showed good speed. This horse is fast out of the gate. He was not dulled by that route effort, and he gets away from this group late. I expect this horse to get to the front in here. The question is, how far does he want to go, and how good is he ultimately?
Yeah, exactly. Those are major questions here. And he's going to be a big price, though, if you're a believer. I'll just say this about him, Dan. It's to win that race, the race we're watching right now, that's not easy to do, to cut back from a 2-turn mile to 5.5 and to still win. The flip side of that is when he won the 2-turn mile two back, he just got absolutely loose on the lead and managed to hold on at the end. Even if he makes the lead here, and I think he will make the lead, I don't think they're going to let him walk.
Was last time the time for the number 10 Raise Kane, who pulled off a 23-1 upset in the Grade 3 Gotham. As we turn into the stretch here, Raise Kane's in behind horses at the 5/16, briefly steadied, gets into the 2-path. But all in all, aside from that one little moment of trouble, I thought he had a perfect closer's trip from Jose Lezcano. Saved ground on the back stretch and into the turn, got to the outside, and it's over right now.
Yeah, he does go on here with a pretty nice finish and just moves away from these horses. Your point, though, the question that you posed when we first started talking about him, though, Dan, was last time the time. I got to believe that it was, not only because he obviously took the step forward he needed to there, but he just got a perfect trip in that race. And there were several other horses in that race who just weren't as lucky as him. I don't want to knock him. He ran well in that race, and it was another step in the right direction for him, but I'm not betting him back, especially at 9-2.
Joel Rosario takes the mount. He'll break from post position 10. Mendelssohn's March completes this field, another one trained by Ken McPeak, and a horse that made a successful dirt debut in his second lifetime start. Let's watch that race right now. He was placed first via disqualification when on the lead on turf in his debut, caught a sloppy track here, and he did it a different way, coming from off of the pace and rallying inside. The runner-up would come back to place in a conditioned allowance with an 87 buyer. The triple worked out, but he showed some gut squeezing on through.
I like this performance from him. He was always in position in this race, Dan. He had to wait around that final turn, so he just sat there like a very professional horse. And then when it was time to come through, he came on through. I thought that was a really good performance. A horse who obviously is thrown into a really tough spot here from post 11, but he ran well last time. He's got plenty of upside. There's some pedigree behind him as well to continue to stretch out in distance. I mean, this horse is a little bit interesting at a price.
Before we get to our top selections, please click the subscribe button on the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel for the latest DRF videos. Top pick time for the Bluegrass. Tapatrice, we're going to learn a lot more about this horse. Can he overcome adversity if he breaks slowly again from the rail? I think if he breaks well and they get him off the inside, he might very well be the most talented horse in this race. And 1 1/8 I'm not worried about. Like you, though, I'm very interested in Verifying the 3. I think he's got a ton of upside and way more tactical speed than the favorite.
Yeah, those are all reasons I took him. And of course, obviously, it feels like he won't be the favorite in here, too. So that was a big factor. Dan, but I just think he's going to get a nice trip in here. I like both of his starts as a 3-year-old. And I think there's forward to go for this horse. I hope it's a fast track. And we'll see if he can just run. I don't even know if he has to take another step forward and just run his good race in here. I think he'll be tough in this race. I'm going to use him. I'm not tossing Tapatrice, but if he's a really short price, I'll try to beat him. I'm throwing the 2 in there, clear the air. I want to give this horse one more chance at a price.
Tapatrice will be my top selection in here. I want to use Verifying. Keep an eye on Scooby Quando. I'm curious to see how he handles the dirt. I think he's not exposed yet, and he's had some trouble in some of his races. He's got to be a big price in this race. 3127 for Mike, 110.36 for me. It's the Grade 1 Bluegrass, your DRF race of the day on Saturday. Good luck.